story. Well, it's another story. Well, it's another story.
Backstory. It seems no matter who we are, where we've been, or what we've done, we all have one simple thing in common. Everyone has a backstory.
Well, it's another story. Yeah. We looking for change? Hello? We want to see some change? Or do we want to be change? Everybody here needs to be the change, right? This is not a spectator sport. This planet requires participation by all of us.
Hi, I'm Cowboy Bob, and you're not. This backstory. I'm Bob Danfield, Cowboy Bob to my friends and fans, I suppose. This is backstory, and this is kind of an open conversation forum. I start every program out, and will continue to do so with the disclaimer: I am not the owner of this program. I do own the title, but I don't own the program platform. I do not own the network this program is on. That is another organization completely, and I am not or otherwise get any kind of contribution on behalf of my opinions, my ideas, or my attitudes. They're mine, and I give them freely. I did not come to fight away from one. I did come here to instigate thought, make you think. I'll give you what I will lay on facts to you, the viewer, to figure this proposition. My producer, I suppose, on a technical term, the one, the only, the
Okay, everybody, we played this before. We talked about the game that's going on. Cowboy Bob is the man. You know I love my Cowboy Bob, you know. The world is insane. Nobody wants to admit it. Internet's messing up all over the country. And I got something for you. See,
okay.
We've been through a lot in this country. And my girl, Lindsay, would justify that this needs to be spoken of. And today, on this very day, I don't know what the day is, but you know me, I'm just me.
It is the 30th of September.
30th of September. Yes.
We are officially in the fall.
Oh, the fall.
Pun intended. Pun intended. We are in the fall, if not the collapse
of the American Empire.
I have this feeling that it's all going upside down.
I never knew it was right side up.
Way, we're incredibly curious as a species, not so terribly intuitive, and in some cases lack any kind of depth where imagination is concerned. Which is why Hollywood and such is so popular, because they give you the fantasies. Okay, they give you, you try to conjure it up yourself. Thus, I think what's happening is, as we have seen in the past, the high thinkers don't come up with an original idea, they pull it off. We are unstable again. There we go. Okay, so but they think that if they can bring it up, they're smart enough to pull off what failed before. Well, we figured it out. We know what went wrong now. We can fix that.
Yeah.
The problem with the domino effect of disaster is that no matter how many ways you route out the dominoes, right? Sooner or later, they're all going to fall down. Okay, that's the inevitability, and we're not smarter than the average bear. But I do think we are going back to a society that is so old in its philosophical perspective that, and it's that one global order.
One world order. One world order.
One global order. One one world order.
See, they don't like you,
Think
Bob.
about that and go. You think about it and go. That's the grand empire. See, and so if that's where we're headed, to try to get us to come back, because that's the most interesting part. Is I ran cattle for some different fellows through the years, and the herd might be 200-300 head at any given time, being driven from summer pasture to a winter pasture.
Right.
And in the process of doing that, moving that herd, when they get to moving, and you've got,
There ain't nothing stopping them.
maybe 6-8 guys on horseback trying to handle 300 head of cattle. Okay, they get to moving, they decide some of them branch off that way, and some of them, you got to run up and you got to head them back in.
You gotta rustle
Right?
those
And
doggies.
they're big and they're strong and they're heavy, and so you can't just go bully them. You have to encourage them to turn back the other way. Okay, not unlike we saw in the videotape of the guys on horseback down at the southern border, being accused of whipping poor immigrants.
Oh, that was a
Okay,
lie.
with
We knew it.
With the layer, yeah, but in that same way, there must be encouragement, right? You have to encourage that cow to turn and go back where you want it to be.
Yeah, you put a
And
bull
I
over there
think
and it runs.
When you look at it from that concept and go, how do we encourage 600 million people or 350 million people in this country, if the numbers are right, somewhere in the neighborhood of between 55 and 107 billion people on the planet, and get them all to decide to agree to change.
Oh, you can't do that.
Change everything, right? We want to change everything.
That ain't
We
gonna
have
ever
this
happen.
Utopian philosophy we want to pursue, and we want you to all come to it willingly, voluntarily, so that we can be in charge, and you can now be the sheep and we'll be the shepherd.
Okay, I like that idea.
And
Then Ray would agree.
It's what I see transfolding, because in history it has happened before. I said it before, and I've said it, I've typed it in other people's shows, making smart aleck remarks, trying to disrupt things, because that's who I am and what I do. But, I've said it before, one of the worst things that's ever happened to humanity is the idea of society.
Oh, hold on. Civilized.
Society is all the rules and all the regulations and all the idealisms and all the philosophies and theories and processes are all society.
Don't forget, no, you got to add the
have a
word
society,
civilized
you must have
society.
order, otherwise you have no society. A society does not exist in chaos.
Hold on. It's got to be
Society
civilized.
exists in order.
Yes.
Okay, the very definition of society,
True.
is socializing. Meaning working in continuity. Everybody's getting along, which means there must be diehard rules. Okay, I referenced again that I climbed up that hill. He came down with a tablet. It had 10 basic rules on it, and he used those to browbeat 40,000 people to behave and move forward. It was real simple, real straightforward.
Well,
Okay.
well, hold on.
No different. How do you get 7 billion people to all coalesce
Fear.
at the same time?
Fear.
Well, that's one way to get there, isn't it?
You got a bunch of
Okay.
punk-
However, as in a previous show, which I'm sorry, I had a whole platform here today. You shot it in the foot.
I did not shoot it in the foot.
I
I
don't
still
blame
got
you
something to
personally.
tell you. I got a
I know.
surprise.
I don't blame you personally. I blame it on Paul Cattell. I was watching his entire show, and he got me into a whole different frame of mind from what I had planned to talk about. But I think I can bring it around.
You
Okay.
think?
So you have a surprise for me, right?
Yeah, I got
I'll
a
cue
present
you
for you
if you can't
today,
cue yourself.
and it's already queued up and ready to go. But I want to make sure you're ready for what I got to give you.
Well, roll that beautiful bum footage.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, in less than 20 seconds, you will be watching a video that my friend, my sister, the love of my life, Lindsay, gave me to show the world. And I'm going to share a screen so that this man can see it as well. Hold on. Hold on.
Launch off.
I didn't say roll those beautiful beam footage.
NASA has conveniently launched another ship into space with human beings on board. Yes, that's right.
human?
3 astronauts are hurtling their way now into outer space.
Here we go,
where
Cowboy
they will
Bob.
Attend to reach a space station from whence then they will go to the
Are
planet
you
Moon
ready?
and then down to Mars.
Are
Yes.
you ready? Are you ready, Cowboy? All right.
Roll that tape.
Okay. Now I want to say that I firmly know why I'm not woke. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get.
I don't think you're even awake, dude. But
well,
come on.
let's try it. Let's go.
Okay.
As we celebrate Pride on the progress we've made over these past years, there's still work to be done. So to those of you out there who are still working against equal rights, we have a message for you. You think we're sinful? You fight against our rights. You say we all lead lives you can't respect. But you're just frightened. You think that we'll corrupt your kids if our agenda goes unchecked. Funny, just this once, you're correct. We'll convert your children. Happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you will barely notice it. You can keep them from disco, warn about San Francisco. Make him wear pleated pants, we don't care. We'll convert your children. We'll make them tolerant and fair.
At first I didn't get why you'd be so scared of us turning your children into accepting, caring people, but I see now why you'd have a problem with that.
Just like you worried, they'll change their group of friends. You won't approve of where they go at night to protest. Oh, and you'll be disgusted when they start finding things online that you've kept far from their sight.
Like information.
Guess what? You'll still be alright. We'll convert your children, yes we will.
Reaching one and all, there's really no escaping it.
'Cause even grandma likes RuPaul.
And the world's getting kinder.
Gen Z's gayer than Grindr. Learn to love, learn to vogue, face your fate. We'll convert your children. Someone's gotta teach them not to hate. We're coming for them.
We're coming for your children.
We're coming for them. We're coming for your children. We're coming for them. Your children will care about fairness and justice for others. Your children will work to convert all their sisters and brothers. Then soon we're almost certain your kids will start converting you. The gay agenda is coming home. The gay agenda is here. But you don't have to worry. Because there's nothing wrong with standing by our side. Get on board and get hurry. Because the world always needs a bit more pride. No, you don't have to worry. Because there's nothing wrong with standing by our side. Get on board and hurry. Because the world always needs a bit more pride. Come on, try a little pride. We'll convert your children. Then we'll turn to you. Giving up the fear inside is freeing like you never knew. Go and see San Francisco.
Go and turn up that disco.
Is this a damn off-Broadway musical or what? Who is supposed to watch this and when? I'm annoyed. I've heard as much as I want to hear. They're just repeating themselves now over and over and over again. Sesame Street on steroids. What do you want me to say? I can't hear you.
Well, Bob, what can I say to you, brother? Help me.
Am I supposed to assault it? Am I supposed to defend
I don't know. I don't know which
Am I
direction you're
supposed
going to go in. I mean,
just be tolerant?
I mean, we're going to convert your children regardless of what you say. So let's find out what.
That's absolutely true. Now look, it's funny because this was what I had in my head.
You had it in
for
your
a title
head?
for today's
Okay.
show. This is where I was going to go with today's program. Okay? Beware the false prophet. Now, it's an interesting title, Brace, and I had a place where I wanted to go, and like I said, Paul kind of messed me up because I got to thinking about what Paul was talking about and the implications, but it all plays into the theories that, where we are. Look, first of all, I was in San Francisco before they were.
Before it was disco.
Actually saw that happening. I mean, at the very beginnings of it, as that whole social thing was coming up in that particular area, as the so-called hippies were going off to the communes, this next generation kind of moved in. And they were already in Portland and they were already in Seattle when I got out of the service in 75. Okay, so they're not new.
No, it's not new.
What I get from this,
Mm-hmm.
common man's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I don't really give a ding dang what you do in the bedroom, the door closed. Okay, there are some weird practices out there, but if that's what gets you off, then hey, that's what life is about, experience.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to experience, then that's your choice.
Yeah.
Okay? However, and I'll use that biblical terminology, the hell that comes with it is of your own making. Okay, so be acknowledged of that. Now,
Bob, are you woke?
Like that video, when I look at something like that video,
Mm-hmm.
I start to try to take it with an open mind, but then they rub it in too far,
Uh-huh.
and then it's too much, and then now you've lost me. I'm not listening to you anymore.
Uh-huh.
Okay, now you're irritating me.
Uh-huh.
So,
And we're going to take your children, we're going to convert them, Bob. Bob.
My explanation, my Dr. Freudian cowboy psychology explanation for all of this is, okay, when you ain't good with yourself and who you are, and you try to find a place where you are good with yourself, but then society refuses to recognize you for that accomplishment. Your next agenda is to gain attention. Okay? I got all the spelling words right on the test the teacher gave me in 2nd grade.
You know I'm not going to say much there,
Turned in the paper, I got it back. There was an A on the paper, and class went on. Nobody acknowledged the fact that I had gotten, for the very first time, I had gotten all 10 of those damn spelling words right. And I wanted everybody to know it. So I became the class cut-up. I got attention by being disruptive. Now, the whole woke movement, as they call it, I like bent spoke. I think it's fairer because it covers more space. It's not just one ideology, it's a couple of them simultaneously. Okay, they want attention. They have chosen what they believe to be their truth, their reality. Now they want everybody else to celebrate that in order to soothe their ego. Okay. Now, the other side of that coin would be that actually they feel guilty inside for being different. Hence, they need affirmation that it's okay that they're being different. And for a long time, society's we're going back a long time, like the Greeks, okay? From that point forward, we kind of, as the society, sort of shunned that behavior.
The Greek behavior.
The Native American Indians just called them touched, right? And said, they wander around and do their own thing, and we don't bother them. Okay, but they weren't allowed to bother other people either. See, it was kind of like, if that's what you want to be, that's fine. That's up to you. You know, if you can find somebody else that wants to play that same game with you, then that's fine with us too. Okay, but don't come into my house and try to make me be like you. Okay, I don't want to.
We'll convert your
Live and let
children.
live was kind of the attitude, right? And they, you know, so, you know, but what I see in our society today is an overinflamed, going back to
Inflamed. Okay.
yeah, overinflamed, okay, sensitivity,
Sensitivity.
demanding
Sensitive asses.
attention. They're demanding attention, and that video is a perfect example. How better to get me to pay attention to you than to threaten me
Threaten my
that
children.
you're going to steal my children like the Pied Damn Piper. Okay?
How you do it? Uh-oh.
Note that story comes to an end. They never tell you what actually happened to the Pied Piper.
Motherfucker got shot.
Yeah, or hung, right? Most likely. You know, somebody didn't buy his game, okay, and blew him away at some point. But at any rate, you know, that becomes the consensus of the whole thing. So, you know, I was thinking about that, and I've been watching a lot, listened to a lot. I was mildly astonished by the behavior of another host who does a late night show, and his just total arrogance with regards to his self-achievement to ensure me as a viewer that he was qualified to be telling me the BS he was getting ready to unload on us. And I got to thinking about that a lot, and I went, you know, one, I respect him. He obviously knows what he's doing. He comes very well prepared. He has a very powerful presence, and he knows how to play the camera and the microphone. I mean, he's a pro.
He's a
Okay,
pro.
I've been around the business for over 40 years. The dude is a pro. I give him it, you know, I will give him his kudos. Okay. But I always question whether or not they are truly motivated from in here with regards to what comes out of here, or if this is business. Because I've been in it for 40 years, and I've seen where what was being done and what was being said and what was being shown was to achieve a specific objective. And the public audience and broadcast television were the sheep, and we were telling them what we wanted them to do and when we wanted it to do it. And Madison Avenue has done an excellent job. If you don't know who Madison
Marketing
Avenue
and
is, it's
promoting
where all the advertising agencies are, the big boys, right? The guys that buy the Chevrolet ads and place them on your television programming. Okay, Madison Avenue spent decades and a lot of money. That thing called MK Ultra was a collaborative event. And by L. Ron Hubbard, okay, who lived on just north of Stanford and on 44th Street in Scottsdale, Phoenix, actually is Phoenix at that point, city limits, right? He was very present in the mid 60s in that area and at ASU. And I did have an occasion more than once to meet the man, spend time in the man's presence, okay? And he had some interesting concepts, some interesting ideas, but he would admit that he was a plagiarist. He would admit that what he did was look at it many, many different doctrines, many different ideologies, and he looked for the truth. The truth is found in that continuous seed. So in the continuous seed, this group hits that nerve, this group hits that nerve, this group hits that nerve. They have a lot of superficial stuff wrapped around it, but those truths are consistent in every story, okay? Science will tell you there was a great flood. The Bible will tell you there was a great flood. Enoch will tell you there was a great flood, okay? It goes on and on and on. They will all tell you there was a great flood. The likelihood is there was a great flood. What caused it, that's a whole other set of questions, right?
Right.
But we can accept the Great Flood. Geologically, we can prove it on the walls of the Grand Canyon. See, this is where the Great Flood was, okay? So that explains a lot of where Ron Hubbard was coming from, is he was taking those pieces of truth, putting them together, and then drawing between the dots, so to speak, connecting the dots to what he came up with Dianetics. And there's nothing wrong with Dianetics. Okay, in theology, it has a solid ground, and that's what was wrong with it, was that it was solid, and you could lean on it in some ways. However, it needed icing on the cake in order to make it palatable. And that's where it got lost. It's when they tried to put the icing on the cake. Now you got to remember, Scientology came out of Phoenix, Arizona. Okay, this is where the man came to this brilliant conclusion that his theory, which was Dianetics, should be a religion called Scientology. And this is where it all came from. Now, again, I reiterate the title, Beware the False Prophet. Because every one of those books that told us about the Great Flood, all those different cultures, all those different philosophies, also told us to beware of the false prophets. Those who would use the truth to manipulate, to control, and to benefit for their own purpose, not for the purpose of all mankind, but for their own purpose. Okay, it's kind of one of those subtle rules. It's that golden rule: do unto others as you would do unto, have them do unto you. Okay, or as they say where I grew up kicking clods out on the pasture, you do unto them before they do unto you. Okay, but you got to be careful how you demonstrate that justice, because you can be wrong, and if you go after the wrong guy, you might regret it later.
Definitely.
However, from the dawn of time, from the earliest man coming out of the cave, we have had a consistency, and the consistency is that somebody was giving us rules of order to develop a society. And in hindsight, retrospect, you can look at all of that historically.
Did you use the word retro?
Yes.
Okay.
Retrospect.
Oh, okay. So, I mean,
in retrospect.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were just going to say retro.
Look at it from the past.
Yeah.
You got the college degree.
But it's retro.
It's retro. Okay. So you can look at it retro.
Okay.
All right. Lazy millennials. I swear. We can call it a retro.
Okay.
Okay. It's still retrospective in the dictionary. So you can look at it from that perspective, and you can see where leadership always ended up with the much, and the people ended up with the less. It never starts out quite that way, but it always goes in that direction. Those at the top end up taking the gross, and the crumbs go to the masses. And with each one of these societies, there's a doctrine. And that doctrine has been given to you by a select few. Remembering that if we go back to just the Egyptians era, we see and recognize that education, reading, writing, knowledge, understanding of the stars and how things work, that was kept within a very select group of people, priests, basically. As we go on into further societies and further cultures, again, we still have this present, going all the way up to Queen Elizabeth's time in England, when the common man still couldn't read or write. It was the priests. And it was in the breaking of that we started teaching the common man to read and write, thereby giving him access to some information. And I use the term some because the relevance to that is they pick and choose what they tell you. And they will tell you that there is an issue hundreds of miles away from you that could threaten you in the near future. And you can't know whether that's real or not, because by the time you find out for real if there's a problem several hundred miles away, it has taken you several days of travel. So by the time you get there, things may have changed. What they said may not still be there, and that would be their excuse for it not existing. Well, it took you this many days. It all blew up. Okay, it's gone. It's not a problem anymore. So dogma has become the driving force for controlling societies. Moses gave us 10 commandments on a pair of tablets and said, these are the rules, accept them. He was not the enforcer. He made that into a deity from above and said, hey man, don't kill the messenger. He's up there. And to put a string on the tie to make it all work, he said, if you don't obey these rules, when you die, your soul will be punished. It'll be judged by that somebody up there, that deity. So as you listen to the prophets through time and space, and we use that word prophet in a sort of unique way, because we have the prophets that were the Baptist, John the Baptist was a prophet. Jesus of Nazareth would be a prophet without any special contingencies. He would have been a prophet. Muhammad would have been a prophet. The list goes on as to who and what is a prophet. But then we have other kinds of prophets. And, you know, they write quatrains and leave us hanging in midair to try to figure out what they mean. Okay? They, you know, they tell us that there's the coming of great events, and we buy them. See, Merlin, in the sense of the King Arthur story, could be a prophet, because he would foretell what was coming. Some of this was earth science, discovered even by early man. Things like eclipses just being this object getting in front of that object, cutting off the light, and knowing when to expect that to happen again. Which brings me back around to the false prophets. Now, in my lifetime, and I'm going to be 67 years old, in my lifetime, I can recall at least 5 occasions when the whole world was up in arms because somebody said the world was going to end on April 14th. We were going to get hit by a comet. We were going to implode by earthquakes. The sun was going to explode. It was Armageddon. The story goes on. 1999, the turn of the year 2000, you know, the clock wasn't going to flip over and count the new digit, because that was a 4th digit. It was never programmed for a 4th digit. So the clock wasn't going to flip over properly. That was going to cause a problem, and that was a sign that that was the end of times. It was the beginning of the end of times. And having survived the last 20 years, I sometimes wonder if that prophecy doesn't have some bearing to it. But I'm still here. So is this planet. So those prophets, as profound as committed to what they believed, their truth at the time.
Oops, I fell.
They were wrong. We're still here. They missed the mark. Okay, I hope you didn't miss the mark there, Odin.
Hey, Bob.
Welcome back to the show there, Odin.
Hey, Bob, guess what?
What?
I had to go to the little boy's room, and on the way to the little boy's room, I got attacked by a ferret. I got attacked by 2 cats, and there was a cat sitting in the little boy's room looking at me strangely like, why you in here? This is my cool-off spot. What's up? Oh, and she had a cigarette in her mouth.
Did you? Okay. And if that cat could talk, what tales to tell about Bella and the dealer and the dog?
No, it was broken, but it was in her
cool,
mouth.
and he never said a mumbling word.
No. She literally had a cigarette in her mouth, but it was broken.
So now that you've suggested that, we can both light one up, because now
Yeah.
we're craving a cigarette because you mentioned a cigarette.
Yeah,
So
you know.
I'm not going to now, just out of principle.
Oh, damn it. So, Bob, I got a
But
question.
there,
What's up with this
there,
indoctrination?
there is the sense of the false prophets. Okay, so, the thing we have to remember is that it doesn't really matter what you believe in.
It doesn't?
And I don't personally discount your beliefs, whatever they are, because to you they are your truth.
Right.
And that is the only objective to being alive, in this material plane is to come to your own truth.
Cause we're living
Figure
in
it
a
out.
material
Experience
world.
life as
Oh,
it
sorry.
is, and figure it out.
Okay.
Figure out where you belong. Philosophically, the idea is that if you're going through life and you're doing what you believe you should be doing, what you feel passionate about doing, and everything is going well, it's not to say there aren't bumps in the road, but everything is going fairly well, right?
Right.
You know, you found a good partner in life. Maybe you've had children. They were born healthy. The job is good. The income is solid. Life is okay. You're good. Then your truth is working for you. Because your truth and my truth, they're not necessarily the same thing. And what works for you may not work for me.
Sorry.
You know, I have a 4th grade education. Odin has a PhD, 2, actually, right?
2.
Okay.
Oh.
Do you know what do you know how much work goes into getting a PhD?
I never
Believe
learned
me,
to
I
play
could ask him,
basketball.
and he would take over the next hour and a half of the show. So we're not going to go there. But
I'm trying to get
you
a
know,
damn teddy bear.
he was suited to a different truth and a different path than I was.
No, I wasn't. We had the
Interestingly,
same
that
truth.
does not make either one of us better or lesser than the other.
But Bob, we have the same truth. You know what the truth is?
Well,
The world is insane, and we're just stuck in the middle trying to figure out why so
survive.
many.
And isn't that what 7 billion people out there are doing right now?
Well, hold on, Bob.
And there it is. See,
Surviving.
I made the comment. I made a comment in another activity event, whatever you call these things.
Show.
With the fact that we take it personally.
Oh yeah.
We see the things going on in the world, and we acknowledge them, and we put them in our brain. And then something happens to us directly.
Yeah.
It affects our life. Okay, that bus crash.
Yes,
at
Penny.
the corner with the garbage truck was no real consequence because I wasn't on the bus, nor was I driving a garbage truck. However, it did stop traffic, and now my Uber can't get through, and I'm going to be late for work. That bus did not crash just to mess up your life. Trust me. They were not thinking about you any more than you were thinking about them at the moment that this incident happened. It has inconvenienced you, but it was not designed specifically to mess with your life. Quit taking everything personal.
No, it's mine.
There are some things that are personal.
Yeah.
When I get in your face, that's personal.
Mm-hmm.
When I get in your space, that's personal.
When I call your name
But
out personally.
the world is like a giant mechanism constantly running, and it doesn't care about you. And if you're not smart enough to look both ways before you cross the street and you get run over, it's your own fault. It's not my responsibility to look out for you if you've got your face buried in an iPhone while you're crossing 4 lanes of moving traffic.
Uh-huh.
See, you gotta be, first of all, you gotta be responsible for yourself. You gotta take care of your own space and what you put in it and where you put it. Okay? Hey man, you go to the nightclub and it ends up in a great big fight, even though you weren't part of that fight and don't even know the people who were fighting.
But you were actually throwing blows,
You
though.
end up getting hit with a flying bottle and end up in the hospital. And who chose to go to that nightclub? You knew the reputation of the nightclub and you took the risk anyhow.
Yeah, you're right about
Right?
that.
Because that's being irresponsible. That's then you just thrown your hands up and said, whatever happens to me. I'm not going to take responsibility for it. I'm going to make somebody else responsible for it. And you can delude yourself, but the reality of it is you get to make the choices. So you get to decide. There are people out there who would benefit from you. You have known them since you were in kindergarten if you didn't know them before that. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you came from. Okay? There were those kids, your own peers at the time, who would have taken your cookies, drank your milk, played with your toy instead of you getting to play with it,
Stretch Armstrong.
if they could have got away with it. That was their goal in life, was to get what everybody else had so they could feel good about having more.
I'm going to find
Now,
that
they
kid.
grew up and they became adults.
I'm going to find
And
that
here
kid.
they are. They pushed us around in kindergarten. They pushed us around in grade school. They pushed us around in middle school. They pushed us around in high school.
That's bullying.
Yeah.
That's against the law.
Now they are
I'm
the
woke.
Congress of the United States.
I'm woke,
okay?
sir. I'm woke, sir. So you need to understand. That's called bullying, and that's discrimination as well. So we're going to have a class action suit
But
against that person.
isn't that the entire woke agenda?
No,
They
because
are bullying.
we don't
They
bully.
back.
We don't bully. I'm going to be a liberal today on this show, and I'm gonna go against him today. Oh yeah, we gonna battle.
All right, now wait a minute.
Hold on, can I get a wig?
Odin.
Oh.
Serious question now.
Okay, let's try it.
Today's news.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube announces that they are going to start removing, rejecting, and denying any and all content being put up on their web location that has any to do with the pros or cons to the current inoculation program.
Okay.
Is that not bullying?
Sir.
Are they not bullying
That's
by suppressing that conversation, open debate?
Mhm.
Are they not bullying? Are they not using their power base to force us to capitulate?
Sir, let me explain to you. As a
Please
liberal
do.
today, as a liberal right now, I must state that it is not bullying, it is not wrong. It is a private corporation making its own decisions independently that states that they do not want to cause mass hysteria amongst the people of the planet that
Why?
use their YouTube facility. Now, we are keeping...
Godmother, please tell me why.
Why?
Why
Because
do
it
they
is an
want to
independent...
not have mass hysteria?
It's,
Why?
it's an independent business. I have the right to choose.
Why are they afraid of mass hysteria?
Hold on. We
Why? No,
decided
you
to
got
go
to
with the
answer
platform.
question.
I
You
am going to
are
answer the
character.
question.
Answer the question.
Okay.
Why are they concerned about causing mass hysteria?
Because there's
What's
too many
wrong
people going
with
pros and
people
cons
getting
about the
upset
vaccines.
when they find out they've been lied to?
There are too many people out there talking pros and cons about the vaccines.
So they're
Therefore,
taking one side or another.
no, we're
on the
not
issue.
taking any side. We're taking it all away. It's a corporation. It's a private interest business. We have the right.
Yes, it is.
So
In the business
you
of selling
cannot judge
advertising,
us.
making money.
You cannot judge us, and your freedom of speech, you have none. This is my business. Thank you. I'm a liberal today. I can argue the other side, but I won't, because I'm liberal. Thank you very much.
You do that too well.
Mhm.
And with the horns
Hold on,
coming out
hold
the
on,
side of your
hold on,
head,
hold on, hold on.
you know. But you see, that is propaganda. The same as that video you showed was propaganda.
No,
It
we
was-
will
it
indoctrinate
is-
your children.
It is carefully constructed. It is carefully worded. It is carefully delivered
It's a song.
in order to engage a certain segment of the society and to enrage a different segment of society.
We're gonna wake
Because
you
I
up.
can walk out here now and I can come off with the good old Second Amendment redneck right-wing conservative argument about
Okay.
how these people are ungodly and unpure and need to be, and it's all, and somebody shouldn't have spared the rod because they damn sure spoiled the child.
That's your personal
This is
ideas.
what you get from Sesame Street, but the point is that's propaganda.
We're
too.
supposed to support our fellow humans. And in this wonderful society
Well, yeah,
we live in,
should.
we should have it.
absolutely should
we should
support
give.
our other humans.
And so we make,
But they should not
sir,
sit around and do nothing
Sir.
expecting us to support them.
Sir.
They should get up and support back.
sir,
See,
you have to.
equal put for equal take.
I will sit back
okay?
and let you
Put
speak,
some
sir.
skin in the game and we can talk business. But when you're talking to me about me taking all the risks and all the liabilities, and you gaining an equal portion of the benefit for having contributed nothing, I kind of tend to think you're starting to sound like my teenage kid.
Sir, you got to understand.
And he needed to be knocked on his butt.
But sir, you need to understand. We are a changing society. We are woke. We are
No, you're a
people
changing society.
living
No,
together.
no,
We're
no,
loving
no,
each other.
It's not we. It's not the we.
It's the we.
You see, the we suggests the whole.
No, yes,
And
that's
the
right.
whole
It is the whole.
not a changing society.
We had to change.
The whole does not want to be a changing
Yes,
society.
we do.
The few
No, not the
for
few.
either a need for attention.
Let me call
or
Nancy
a need
Pelosi.
to affect their own guilt, want to be accepted.
Let me call
and
Schumer.
told that they are equal to, above, or better. And oh, by the way,
I need a
not
black person. I
unlike
need to call Elmer
the
Holmes Norton.
radical Muslims who want the whole world to live by Shiite law.
How do we know they're radical?
They believe that they can kill anybody who doesn't agree to live by Shia law.
No, they don't.
It's
They
in
have their own
articles of
issues.
their religion. Now,
That's
this
propaganda,
group
sir.
over here is saying, "Oh, we can, you know what? We can cancel you." Hey, you know what? The only way you're going to cancel me is with a Smith & Wesson.
Sir, that's
Okay?
propaganda,
Then I'll be
sir.
canceled. Okay? You can bar me from a website.
Oh, yes.
You can tell me I can't log on to Facebook anymore.
Yes.
And for about 20 minutes, I'm going to be depressed about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it isn't going to matter, and I'm going to go on with my life. Because the reality of it is, not unlike every other human being on this planet, I have to eat.
Uh-huh.
I have to have water to drink.
Uh-huh.
I prefer to have shelter.
Uh-huh. You prefer?
And it would be nice to have companionship.
Oh, well, you got
But I've been
companionship.
with
sir.
and without companionship a number of times in my lifetime, and right now I am without companionship, and I'm quite fine. This is my companionship, so you're going to take this away. It's hollow at best,
Uh-huh.
okay? You know, if the other kind of companionship I was looking for was porn, and you told me I couldn't log into the porn anymore, I would find a way to fantasize in my head I wouldn't need the porn. So I could fantasize that I have some kind of companionship through this internet.
See, I like the way you said some kind of
You know what? At the
companionship.
end of the day, I can make up an invisible friend who's in the room with me. I don't need the internet.
Okay.
Okay, I'll survive.
Mm-hmm.
I will survive. So this whole notion that you're not going to be able to post selfies every 45 seconds across the globe to millions of people who don't give a rat's bottom about your selfie. They don't care. They don't care what you look like. And you know what's funny is you're putting this stuff out and you're asking the whole world to judge you.
They are
The
judging.
greatest fear you have is to be judged.
They are
You don't
judging.
want to be judged, but you put yourself out here to be judged.
No, we're liberal.
You
We're
know, I mean,
free.
that's absolutely. What's her name? What's the girl, the blonde singer, who's current? Britney Spears.
Brittany, oh, she's a sweetheart. She's a sweetheart.
Okay, no.
We gotta help her.
No, forget the game here. Now, just seriously, Britney Spears. Okay, she she comes out and proclaims, okay, that she's being oppressed,
She is.
held down, and dismissed, and unrecognized. Okay, you know, she being cheated and stolen from. Too.
She even has
That
a
doesn't seem to
IUD.
be the
That's
big
wrong.
Issue, right?
She even has
The
an
big issue
IUD.
The big issue is they won't let me live my life the way I want to, and I'm an adult. Okay. But isn't everything that you're doing to gain more attention to you? So you're coming out and doing all these press things, all this court junk, you're making all this noise, you're quick to jump in front of the camera.
I go to
quick
Congress.
To show up on the red carpet.
Yes, she goes to Congress.
If I was in that position, I don't think I would be making a public issue out of it. I would be dealing with the business at hand behind the scenes, getting it squared away, and then when I was done, I might come back out and relaunch myself now as a free soul. But I sure wouldn't be drawing all this controversial negative attention.
But it's called
because
marketing.
The man on Madison Avenue said, but there's no such thing as bad press.
That's right. Marketing.
Publicity is publicity. And if I get 30 seconds on the 6 o'clock news nationwide, doesn't matter whether it's good or bad, I got 30 seconds of FaceTime on nationwide television.
That's right.
And that's what counts. That sells books, that sells tickets, that sells movie entries, that sells paraphernalia and swag, and baby, that's what it's about.
Controversy.
It's all propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
And propaganda starts all the way back with 12 guys who supposedly spread a word and caused a movement. But that was propaganda. Look who really benefited. At the end of the day, there's a guy living at the Vatican. There's a whole bunch of guys living at the Vatican. Trust me, they're living as well or better than the folks in the Hollywood Hills are.
They're liberal.
The celebrities.
They're liberal too.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they are. Okay, it doesn't, or who they are. It matters what they are.
They follow the program.
Living in opulence and wealth while everybody else feeds them, and they do nothing but sit in judgment over top of all of us.
But what do you expect?
That's their job, is to sit in judgment.
But
That's why the coolest job in the federal government is to be appointed to the Supreme Court of the United States.
Or the federal court.
Lifetime frickin' appointment.
Yeah, that's a lifetime thing.
Okay, you get to be at the high seat for the rest of your life, and you're above being judged, as you are the judge. What a cool job. You don't have to do nothing. They feed you, they clothe you, they give you a place to live, you've got chauffeurs, you've got security people, you've got babysitters when you need. You got it all, man.
Mm-hmm.
And you do nothing but show up for a couple of days of court and sit around in an old outdated robe and pretend like you're omnipotent and know more than the rest of us.
And you're a celebrity.
And now you're a celebrity.
Mm-hmm.
Because isn't that the fastest way to get out of the ghetto, is to get yourself an NBA or an NFL or a Major League Baseball contract.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Nobody gets hockey. Nobody gets hockey.
Move up to the big show and the big bucks.
Yeah.
Okay? And but what I find interesting is the people who seem to scream the loudest and with the most sincere intent behind their language are the ones that have already made it to the top, not the ones that are down at the bottom. The guys down at the bottom will get agitated and come forward, but not until the guys up at the top bargain. But the guys up at the top aren't suffering anymore. They're at the top.
They're suffering. Cowboy,
I'm getting $2.5 million a
they're
year.
suffering.
My life is tough.
They're suffering. Trust me.
He's put in 16 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And I was living in a one-room efficiency apartment.
Were you sweating?
Okay? Barely able to pay the rent. And this guy's living in mansions and getting, $2.5 million a year for playing 16 games. God, I wish I had it that good. Now that he has made it, he's going to stand around and say, hey, everybody. Now, and I'll tell you what.
Uh-huh.
Don't ever miss the point that immediately after one of those guys gets done taking his soapbox stand on purity and idealism is followed by where you can get his brand name t-shirts with his number on it at this store.
And don't forget his book, if he can write.
And his book, yeah.
Yeah, he's got to educate
and
you.
And his HBO special that he's going to have with Whoopi Goldberg or something.
Oh, yeah, that's the name I was looking for. Whoopi. Whoopi from Ghost. She's such a wonderful lady.
But see, celebrityism, again, is propaganda. Now, I know the guy, so I won't use his name. But let me tell you, he has been said to be the crown prince in the music industry. Came, went, came back, went, begged to come back out again, came back out again, still as sensational as before, still pulls 50,000 people to a concert. When he started out, he only knew 3 chords on a guitar. Could not play the guitar, he just knew the 3 chords. Okay? His voice had issues, but he had the look. He was tall, well-built, square jaw, had what they were looking for. They put a Stetson on his head and said, you are country music.
Yeah. He's a real man.
They proceeded to get him voice lessons, which is not unusual. A lot of people do that, big stars and not. Go get little things fixed so that they can hit certain notes, learn exercises, that kind of thing. He gained better knowledge and usefulness of a guitar. And he was presented with music. And he learned the music. And he went out in front of the crowds. Except the crowds weren't really crowds. The tickets were given away for free. And oftentimes in the first, probably the first year and a half tour-wise, there were, what do you call it, they draw the ticket?
Yeah.
Raffles?
Raffles.
Okay, attached to your attendance. So if you wanted to win a brand new Mustang, you know, okay,
you need to go to the concert.
Audience, but you had to be in the audience and you had to have a ticket, but the tickets were given away free by radio stations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Of course.
Because by this guy's name at the time, he couldn't have drawn flies.
But we gave it for free.
So they
and
created a crowd. Then they pointed cameras at the crowd and said, look at all the people that showed up that love him.
That's marketing.
Right? Then they went to the radio stations and they
told them to play the
did a little
music.
business there, right? And they got into the rotation because what people don't understand is that once upon a time in the radio world, you actually got music in on LPs.
Yeah.
And so the program director would sit down, take the times off of the various songs, put them in a kind of an paper algorithm, determine his time slots for commercials, and then he would hand the DJ a playlist and say, play these songs in this order, commercial here, now play these songs in this order.
And then
this
pop
is
the
called
cart.
Rotation. What songs play, when, and how often. So they would get the radio stations to increase rotation. So maybe then a song being played twice a day, once in the AM, once in the PM, they would get it so that it played, 3 times in the morning, 3 times in the afternoon, and 4 times at night. That's upping the rotation. So people keep hearing that same song from that same unknown artist.
Yeah.
Now, suddenly, Mr. Nobody, in no time flat, has become absolutely famous. And to make sure that works, the people like out in Hollywood are throwing together a whole program. Okay, so they've got this guy walking on to the Today Show or this morning show. They're introducing him to the world. They've got him signing autographs and meeting people and going out, and they're really buffing this guy up. They're making him, he's on the cover of all the teen magazines, that kind of thing, right? This is the new guy, all right? They just told you. You haven't even heard this guy yet.
But you're seeing him.
They just told you that he's the next best thing. And if they keep telling you that he's the next best thing
you won't believe
long
it.
enough, often enough, you will just accept that he's the next best thing.
He probably is. He's a liberal.
And then when they say his new album's out, you'll run out and buy it because you have to keep up with the Joneses and have the next best thing.
That's right. You gotta have it.
Right? Because that has to do with human ego. Now, the prophets, the false prophets, they play on this. Okay? If you think that the people behind AT&T telephone, the landline that ran, across America like a great big spider web of rubber wires everywhere, were not behind the advancement of technology for the cell phone, you're sadly mistaken. They were at the forefront.
Yes.
And if you think the people who would become Cellular One, eventually the people who would become Verizon and T-Mobile, which is AT&T, by the way, T-Mobile.
Of course.
Okay, these people, you think they weren't looking at the idea of being able to compute the computer into the phone?
That was years ago.
As to be able to reach you whenever they wanted to with, drum roll, advertising.
Of
marketing
course.
pitches.
Of course.
Coming to you constantly. They've got you hooked on a phone, and they are constantly bombarding you throughout the day with tawdry messages of you should look at this or you should buy that.
Or you should play this app.
Propaganda. That is propagandizing. That is virtually weaponizing propaganda. Now, in the previous program with Dr. Ball, conversation came up from, they're going to plug us in and we're all going to be walking around with a computer in our head and blah, 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 the cyborg thing or whatever, right? The
it's called Google.
cube is coming for us.
It's called Google
right?
Goggles, where I can actually
Okay.
access the internet.
But
you have to be wealthy of that.
They are going for that. That's exactly what they're doing.
Oh, we already got it.
They're getting us ready for a way to integrate us into a continuum thought base, database.
Mm-hmm.
So that all the people and all the thoughts and all the ideas are all flowing through all the time and being analyzed and determined what is the most common desired and what is the most common dislike, and in the process of being able to do that, and of course if you have dissentful thoughts, then they're going to know that too.
Yes.
So before you have a chance to even process your dissentful thoughts into an action, they already have targeted you as being a dissenter. Okay, they want this. That's where they're going, and they'll have it if we let them. Okay, again, you and I both had this conversation, and you said you actually wanted to do a whole show on a kind of a retrospect of movies in society. Is Hollywood imitating life, or is life imitating Hollywood? And there is a lot of continuity to that. And you look at the idea of the Terminator and the idea of Skynet, and you look at 1984, and you look at all these various enterprises, Battlestar Galactica, right, with the Cylon robot armies, okay? This stuff is in the heads of the people that are behind the desk that are writing the checks right now. These are the things that influenced them in their youth. And do you think that they were influenced by these things by accident?
No.
Okay. I mean, there is growing evidence, okay, that Roddenberry pursued Star Trek with a whole bunch of DOD money behind it.
That storyline. He's a liberal.
They wanted to plant that thought in our heads. They wanted to wake us up to the idea of a future in space technology. They wanted it. They worked for it. Consider the correlation between the time that Star Trek came out and the time that John F. Kennedy gave that speech saying, we're going to go to the moon before the end of this decade. They had to get a lot of people on board. So they did. They used it. Okay, they brought things out, old radio programs and comic book programs back out. Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon and all this stuff, all these space stories, all to get you to be more accepting of the idea of life off this planet. Because I believe their agenda is, and that they understand deeply and have for some time understood, that this planet is fixing to go into a crisis stage, which is going to be very challenging its survival of mankind or mammals in general. And they are in a rush to find a way to get themselves in that great arc off this planet and someplace else where they can survive.
What if the ark doesn't leave the planet?
What's that?
What if the ark does not leave the planet? It goes
that's a possibility.
inside the planet.
That you could go several ways, right? The movie 2012, they were just sea craft.
But then,
right, they were supposed to be giant cruise ships that were the sizes of cities.
Yeah.
That people could live on until the water receded and the land was again inhabitable. It's a probability. The idea of sequest, that there would actually be civilizations in domed environments down onto ocean floors.
Which is possible.
That's a possibility.
Because they're already doing it.
What they're actually working towards isn't as scary as the fact that they are clearly looking at selecting a group to survive, not the mass. Because they can't come up with a way to be able to move the entire population of this planet and all of the animals someplace else.
So we do 10 liberals and 2 conservatives.
They couldn't get 5,000 people out of Afghanistan. Okay, I mean, what's it going to take to move 7 billion people and all the animals?
Would move 10 people and 2 conservatives.
Right. So they're getting you ready for one of several things. The one is a very depressing idea, and we saw it with Dr. Jones down in Mexico, you know, and his church gathering of people who all drank the Kool-Aid and died. Okay, a mass extinction. Everybody commits suicide. We're leaving. We're getting into this big boat we built, and we're going off to Mars to recolonize, and you're all on your own. Good luck. Oh, by the way, by this time next month, the temperature is going to be 185 degrees on the surface of the planet. You're going to die. So you can either choose to drink the Kool-Aid or you can fry in the sun.
But for how long?
They wouldn't bring up such a conversation prior to their being prepared to actually leave, because people are going to freak out. Like in the movie 2012.
Right.
Okay. They showed you in the beginning of the movie. Okay. People were, you know, the asteroid was coming. People were freaking out all over the planet. Okay. This was going to be a planet killer event. That was the idea. And nobody knew exactly what was going to be. They just knew it was going to be catastrophic, and it was going to be global, and it was going to cause problems, which is why they had a plan to survive the problem. Another great flood like Moses. So they built arks like Moses, and they got all the 1%ers all got a seat on the boat, and everybody else didn't. Jehovah Witnesses have been warning us about this now for almost 100 years. Only in their story, it's a craft is going to come from heavens, and it's going to collect the righteous, which is going to be the 250,000 or whatever it is, and they're going to be taken to salvation, and the rest of us are going to be left at our own devices, and we're going to suffer greatly in the collapse of this planet and all the life on it. Now, that may be true or it may not. It makes for a good story. Sold a lot of tickets at the movie theater. Played well on television as a rerun. Okay? But is that what they're up to? Now, there is science to support the idea. But remember, propaganda. Okay? They were propagandizing you from Jerusalem. They propagandized you from the Wailing Wall. They propagandized you from Mecca. They propagandized you from Spain, from England, from the Washington, D.C. in the United States of America. They've been propaganding everything. They make up what works for them. Today we're calling it the narrative. We've come up with a new conversation. Instead of saying an outright bullshit fantasy, we'll call it the narrative. This is the narrative. You got to stay with the narrative.
It sounds good.
What I contend is you got to think for yourself.
Aww.
Beware of false prophets. If the track that someone wants you to follow is going to, in the end, benefit them but not you, they're a false prophet. That doesn't mean what they're saying is wrong. Doesn't even mean there ain't truth in some of it. But it does mean that you need to think for yourself, not be the sheep. See, the odd part of the story of the shepherd, the sheep, the sheepdog, and the wolf is that the wolf, who's in the middle, gets to split in half. Half of him becomes domesticated to protect and control the sheep. The other half still preys on the sheep. The steward is the shepherd. The sheep are the people, the masses. It's those ones in the middle that get to decide whether they want to go wolf or sheepdog. Problem we're having now is that we've lost the logic of that emotion, and we've tied it to, but I became a police officer 10 years ago because it was good pay, great pension, good medical. I wanted to take care of my family, and it was a good way to do it. Now, I'm being challenged in my belief systems, but I'm still beholding to the system itself, who hired me, pays me, takes care of me. So they're saying, defend me. We are the leadership. Defend us. You are here to protect us from the masses. And most of them are saying, "What? I was one of the masses, and I came here to protect the masses. Now you're telling me that I should treat the masses differently, that I'm no longer here to protect them. I'm here to police them, to control them, to keep the sheep in the pen so they'll be easier to move to slaughter when I'm ready for the pork chops or the lamb chops."
Lamb chops.
Lamb chops, right. Okay. So, you know, there you have the real straw that breaks the camel's back. Because deep down inside, we all have some kind of moral conscience, even if we choose. So I choose to be a con man, a jewel thief, a liar, cheater, womanizer.
Liberal?
I choose it. I want that. I like it. It's fun. I'm having a good time in my life. But deep down inside, you see, I still have a morality that lets me know that what I'm doing is socially unacceptable, wrong, going against the flow.
So is it better to be an individual?
That's my morality. I choose to ignore it, but that doesn't mean I don't have it. See, everybody has it. And now you're saying National Guardsmen with your loaded M14 rifle with the bayonet affixed, you're facing across a group of angry, agitated students who believe that they're being imposed upon and objectively, subjectively, oppressed.
Oh my God.
In their education,
We should
in
help
their
them people.
lifestyle. And you're looking down the barrel of that M14 rifle, and the person you see at the other end of that barrel is your 19-year-old sister, who happens to be protesting today with the rest of these kids. Are you going to pull the trigger? The system says, take them down. Are you going to pull the trigger? That's your sister. It's a little girl you grew up with. You're going to shoot her? Your mother? Your father? Your grandma? You going to pull the trigger? Going to hesitate? What are you going to do? See, the upper crust, the shepherd says, put them down, make them obey. People down at the bottom are going, hey, you're not my boss, get out of my way. And the poor guys in the middle, okay, those wonderful warriors that we like to, tag on television and radio about, thank you to the service to our country and our poor wounded warriors and all this good stuff. They really don't give a rat's ass, by the way. I'm one of those poor wounded warriors. They never gave shit about me. Okay, so that's the reality. But, okay, those are the people that are stuck in the middle. And you have to remember, without them, those people at the top have a real hard time controlling you. Nancy Pelosi, and I question this, but Nancy Pelosi appeared to be rattled by what happened on January 6th. She suggested that she was terrified. Others said they were afraid they were going to be, they were going to be beaten or killed or hung.
Those evil people.
That it was an insurrection and the people were going to, attack our representatives and do them terrible bodily harm. So what was her response? Put up fences, triple the guard. She wasn't ready to defend herself against the mass. She wants the guard to do it for her.
She's such a warrior.
Yeah. But I question, and I brought this up before, and no one ever wants to follow the conversation. But I'll lay it out there one more time for everybody to think about.
One more again.
When you go into public service or you go into the military, any branch, you are now working for the government of the United States, and you were required to raise your hand, and you were required to recite an oath, which is virtually a written verbal contract. You enter into the contract, and at the end you say, I do. In that very basic oath, lie the words, and I'll probably misquote this, but to general purpose. I promise to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, the laws there set forth thereupon,
Against all enemies, foreign and
Okay.
domestic. Blah, blah, blah.
I promise to stand and defend the Constitution. On January 6th, the Capitol was under siege. People were storming the halls. Where were those defenders who gave their oath to stand and protect? They were running in tunnels the other direction.
No,
And
actuality.
they put minions between themselves and the raging public to cover their escape.
Well, they're not the Constitution.
But they said they would stand and protect.
They're representatives of the
First line
people.
of people at those doors on the inside of that building should have been the representatives of the House of Congress, should have been the senators. They should have been standing right there facing the people going, me first, because that's what the forefathers believed.
That's what they would have
If
done.
it came down to it, George Washington, Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson would have been standing out in the front throwing punches against the people who were trying to take down the government. That's what they would have done.
But
They
we're a
were
woke
warriors.
society now. We're woke. We woke. We
but
know
you
better.
see-
We don't want to
but
get
you
hurt.
see, you reap what you sow. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You put it down there, you're going to get it back. And what makes you or me so special as to believe everybody else in the world should make special exception? It's because I've got long hair?
No, it's because
You know?
it's
Is that the reason? Because I have a really nice cowboy hat that costs a lot of money?
that's a good hat. I like
Because I
that.
have a podcast?
You're special.
Okay, because once upon a time I thought maybe I was somebody. That's still questionable, but in my mind I was. Okay? What makes me so special that I think other people should make concessions for me?
Because people need their celebrities
to
and
me.
leaders. They need
I
the
want you-
shepherd. They need a shepherd.
To cater to me.
They need a shepherd.
I want to come into this business. I want to do what I want to do in this business, even if it's completely in contrast to what this business does. So let's say this business is a hardware store, and I want to come into the hardware store, and I want to change the tires on my bicycle. Okay, because I'm woke, right? So I have a bicycle with a bent spoke.
Oh yes, yes.
So, like how I did that? Okay, so, I want to come into your business and I want to fix my bicycle tire in your business, disrupting the flow of your business. And if you say no, then I say it's because you're a bigot, you're prejudiced, you're racist, you're homophobic. I want you to make your business accommodating to me and screw everybody else.
The customer is always right. The customer is always right.
Yeah, it's funny how, a one-liner
Yeah.
can stick.
Yeah.
But you know what? The customer isn't always right. And no business really has the right to refuse service to anyone. There's another line. And it used to be posted on the doors and the walls by the cash register in virtually every business in this country. This establishment reserves the right to refuse service to anyone.
But not no more.
No
That's
shoes, no
bias.
mittens.
That's bias.
Yeah, that's biased. Okay,
That's
but that's the way it used to
discriminating.
be. Now you're turning that around, and you're saying you don't have the right to refuse service to anybody. And if I want what you have to sell, you have to sell it to me.
At the price I asked for it too.
Yeah, at my price, not yours.
That's right.
That's right.
Only in America.
Otherwise, you're being prejudicial and a bigot, and you're a white supremacist.
That's right.
Even if you happen to be a black Asian.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the store owner is the offspring of a black soldier who was in World War II over in Japan who married a Korean girl, and they had a kid, and he now owns this store, but he's a white supremacist.
Of course. It's his ideology. He's not
Right?
special enough.
Hey, guess what, Daryl? I'm going to let you off the hook. Because you didn't vote for me, you're not black. You're now white. You can do anything you want in this country.
That's right. We're going to indoctrinate those children. We're going to make them good, wholesome.
Now, let me ask you a question. If somebody walked up to you on the street, you don't have kids, right? Do you have kids?
I got kids, but they're okay. They done.
Okay,
Yeah.
you got kids. So if somebody came up to you and said, hey, I'm going to take your kids, and this is what I'm going to do with them.
Okay.
Okay, they're right here in your face physically. What would your reaction be?
I'm going to call the LGBTQ community. I'm going to call the Equal Rights America. I'm going to call those people that protect the people.
I'm asking Dr. Odin, the citizen, the natural human being.
Yeah.
Okay, not some showboat bunny that he likes to play on camera, which is cute, and I like it, but don't push it.
Okay.
I'm talking to you now as a real father.
Yes.
Somebody walked up to you and said those words to you, to your face. What would your reaction be?
Can we go around the corner, or do I have to do it right there?
Yeah. You lay a hand on my kid, and
No, it's not even a thought about saying that. I'm not even going to say
I'll
it.
remove the hand.
No, I'm not even going to say that. I'm going to whip that fucking candy ass.
Well, there it is.
Right then and there.
Okay, so now that aside, okay?
20 of them, 40 of them, I don't care.
Let's go back to that.
I'm dropping a hammer.
Let's go back to that video.
Yeah,
what
let's go back to the video.
What kind of reaction do you think they wanted to get from that video?
They got what they wanted. Because it's in the school system. It's in the education system. It's in all the states. They even replaced the American flag. Fucking shit. The American flag with the LGBT rainbow.
You may have spent your entire childhood with your nose pressed in a book. Okay, but I spent mine sniffing out girls that would let me play with them in the backyard. All right, most of that stuff that they try to shove down my throat in kindergarten, first, second, third grade, went in one ear and right out the other. I was focused on a whole bunch of other crap, and so were about 75% of my classmates at the time. We sat in class and listened to them rant because we had to. Because our daddies told us that we had to sit our butt in that class and we better not be disrupted or we were going to get whipped when we got home. Okay? Now, is that a good or bad policy? I'm not here to judge. What I do know is that most of that crap didn't stick. And it really didn't start sticking until like 8th and 9th grade when I started realizing that I was part of something bigger rather than everything was part of me. Because as a child, you see the world as though it's all yours. It's wonder, excitement, it's thrills, it's intrigue, you're learning.
It's toys.
It's all new to you, so it's yours. It's yours to explore and understand. Okay? The world is here for you when you're a child. Mommy instills that. Daddy supports it. Grandma lays it on the table, and it's called a lemon meringue pie. Okay? But you're told the world is here for you.
Yes.
Okay? Now, then you hit a certain age and you get a certain education, whether you get it from a book or you get it from just walking down the street, you get an education, and in that form of education, you come to a realization, and that realization is you can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant, except in Alice. No, kidding. You come to the realization that you belong to the world around you. It doesn't belong to you. Now you change a different course. Now you're confused and you don't know what to do because you don't know where to go. So the natural course is to look to somebody that you aspire to, someone you respect greatly, someone that you, I don't know what the word is. You want them to mentor you, kind of thing. All right. And you look to them and you think, wow, man, this person is so great. So whatever they say, whatever they think, that's what I'm going to think too. Thus, I give you a whole cadre of people who are just mind over their own butt about a guy who was shot in an elevator in an uprise apartment in New York, because once upon a time he belonged to a rock band.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I know who you're talking about.
Whose music, by the way, had its moment and waned. But somehow this one guy, because he stood out from the herd and spoke in a different, in a different language, so to speak, in a different direction, to a different ideology, okay, he gained cult status. Now, you see, that's the problem. Now, everybody says this is what he meant. When Prince became Prince, greatest marketing stunt I ever saw. That.
Yes, it was.
And the problem with that is anybody else that tries to do what Prince did will simply be dismissed as a copycat. What Prince did was genius. The artist formerly known as Prince. The Abek, that symbol, okay, an Egyptian symbol. It's going to be known as this. Got him more attention and millions of record sales simply by doing that, because Prince was running out of steam. He didn't have the marketing power anymore. It was waning. He was tied to this, and it was like Little Joe trying to go do Little House on the Prairie. Okay, people couldn't get past him being Little Joe. They knew him as Little Joe. Now all of a sudden he's this guy at a Little House on the Prairie, he's a different person. And they had a hard time translating that, because they still wanted him to be, they wanted Ingalls to be just like Cartwright. And they were two different characters, right? So you weren't going to get the same performance. And so what Prince did, and that was great. And he sucked a whole lot of people in. And so then people went, wow, Prince would say that you should live your life this way, so I'm going to do that too. Prince was a musician. He was a businessman trying to hustle a buck. Okay? He was a poor kid with a big brain who came out of the ghetto.
He had some bad-looking girls, though.
And figured out how to get people's attention and amuse people, and for that they elevated him. Not because he was wiser than the rest, not because he was touched by some deity from outer space, not because he was anything more than a clever little hustler that found a really good hustle.
And good music.
He was doing what he knew how to do, and he could do it well. Okay, he could sing. He had a hell of a voice, and he could sing. But he also knew there was no future in being in the boys' choir. Okay? The future was being one of those guys down the street corner everybody's throwing their quarters at. That's where it's at. And now you become a showman. The musician and the showman become one individual, and now you become a big-time celebrity living in a big-time mansion. And all the girls love you, okay? And, the food, money for nothing, and the chicks are free, okay? And that's the logic behind it. Now, this is not someone we should be following, okay? L. Ron Hubbard believed that he had an understanding that surpassed that of most men of the day. And there were other people who agreed with him, believed that maybe he did. Maybe what he was talking about was the key to the future of mankind. And he may be right, and we may be on that course. But remember again, okay, he never saw himself as being some kind of great Messiah, nor did he see himself as being the great giver of wisdom to all of the masses. He discovered something and said, hey, look, man, I discovered this. I tried it, I tested it, I crushed it, I rebuilt it, I tried it, I tested it, and you know what? I can't find a terrible flaw in it. Maybe I hit on something. I was searching and I found. And then he offered to share. And that scared people, because if you do have the miracle to this or the miracle to that, then by all means, we need to make money off this, not just give it away for free. You can't just give it away for free. This is a cure-all toxic, man. This stuff, this is the tonic that ails, cures what ails you. This is the miracle cure for humanity. We can make money off this, brother. Stop giving it away. Another prophet. Now the question is, who's the false prophet? Who's the for-profit? I always look at the for-profit guy as being false. The one who's driven to tell you, I love the greatest gag that I get today. I see it on, I get it constantly on Facebook and other locations. And it's the get my guide to how to publish your book. You need to write your own book, and you need to know how to publish your own book, so buy my book on publishing books so that you can write your own book and publish it. In other words, I could not come up with a reasonable book that anybody would buy, and I need the money, so please buy my ideas about how to get a book published that nobody will buy, because that's what I know. That's why I'm selling you a how-to book. I'm selling you a how-to book because it's got a better chance of selling than my novel does. Okay? I wrote a sci-fi novel nobody wants. Okay, so here's my how-to book. This is how to get published and not make any money or ever have anybody buy your book. But here's how to get there.
But you're going to buy my book.
I've done it before. Now, why would I buy this clown's book? Okay, I want to talk to the guy, and this is terrible, right up the street from me, if he's still alive, and I don't know that for a fact, but I've not heard otherwise. Okay, Redmond wrote Celestial Prophecies, or Celestine Prophecy, okay? 3 books. Came out at the end, when it was all said and done, walked out, I think, on the Dick Cavett show, if I remember correctly, and said, no, none of that crap ever happened. I made it all up. It was a bet to see if I could sell a philosophical religious line. And I did. And it sold like mad. And no, those books don't mean anything. There's no hidden meaning. There's no secret. There's no, the Da Vinci Code was another example. Same thing. Started a whole thing across the world, man. People suddenly going, oh, we can go find these treasures. The buried treasures, okay? The Da Vinci Code was a novel. The guy made it up. He said, what if we had this plot? And he wrote out the plot, and he made it very interesting because he was a very good writer, okay? We have been living our lives on fictitious idealisms created by a man called Homer in the...
Odyssey.
What was it? The, 8th negative BC, whatever it was, and he wrote this story about this prince trying to go out on an odyssey in order to gain the right to become the king. And he made up all these sea creatures and all these monsters and all these stories. And you know what? We are thousands of years later, and here we are, and yet we still hold context to that story. And it was nothing but a story. There was no fact involved. Those people never existed. There's no proof that they did. Okay? It was all propaganda to sell an ideology. Keep working hard and you can get there. Don't surrender. Don't give up. I don't want to have to get up and go do the damn laundry, so you keep working real hard. One of these days, you'll be the head of the laundry. And then you won't have to wring out clothes anymore. You'll just examine to make sure they're clean. Come on, stay in there. Keep going. You can defeat the monsters. You can be like Hercules. You can be like... It's all propaganda, folks. From the get-go to the outcome, it's all propaganda. And it's all designed to serve somebody else's interest, but not yours. So all you can do is be the logical beast that the Creator created, who has the ability to take in these ideas, weigh them, measure them, analyze them, think about them. Imagine the impacts, pro or con, on you because of what they're doing. And never, never, never look at anything through one side of the binoculars. You open both eyes and look through both tubes at the same time. Because otherwise, what you see is a delusion to what's really there. It's not where you think it is, it's over here, because you're only looking through one eyepiece. You got to look through both eyepieces. Life is about living with your eyes wide open. Pay attention. Look around. The world is full of distractions. It's intended for just that purpose. If I can keep you distracted, then I can whistle and get your attention whenever I want it. And I only want your attention so I can sell you something you don't need, so that I have money to pay for my boat, so that I can belong to the Playboy Club or whatever. Okay, that's what it's about. You're in this course by yourself. If you're real lucky, you have a companion, and the companion is someone to help you decide what's truth from false. You might have children, a family, but ultimately they're looking to you for leadership. You have to be the thinking man or the thinking woman. And it's not about gender. It's about you individually. You're on a course, you're walking a path, you have to decide when to take the fork, when to sit down, when to run. You. Nobody else on that path is going to care what happens to you more than you do. So nobody else is going to stand up and be responsible for you more than you should. Hi, I'm Cowboy Bob. Did I do my Baptist preacher well?
But you missed a point. That there's times when we must gather together, and work together to defeat a unknown conservative evil that's out there. They're trying to change us. They don't like us.
Oh, what is Almighty Tooth Fairy? What is that evil? Explain to me what that evil is doing to you that is so harmful. See, I have this question. All these people hated Donald Trump.
Yeah.
They hated Donald Trump.
I hate him.
Why?
But I pray for him.
What did Donald Trump do to them?
I pray for him.
What did Donald Trump do to you? Anybody out there? What did he do to you?
He's racist. He's racist.
Who said he was a racist?
The
evidence of his employment system throughout his hotels and holdings does not substantiate that he was a racist. He had people from all walks of life.
Okay.
And all levels of education.
What about when the Russian thing? Yeah, he was involved in it. He should have impeached him.
Why? Because he wanted to take down the lying hot pants you call Hillary Mama? Okay, I mean, come on, is that what it is? Is because he stood up and said, you know what, Hillary, I'm not going to back you against Barack Obama.
He's sexist.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to get involved in this. I don't agree with where you're going and what your agenda is, and I'm pulling out, and I'm taking my billions of dollars with me. And because that pissed her off, and she believes that because if she had had his $1 million and his endorsement, she would have won that election instead of Barack Obama, and it would have been a woman president instead of a black man as a president. See, because it really didn't matter. It was going to be one of the two. It was required in the social thing. But irregardless of that,
social justice.
Okay, she didn't get what she wanted, and so the person who was the evil beast that made it all happen, destroyed her whole dream, was Donald Trump. That was the only offense he made, was not throwing $1 million behind Hillary Clinton's campaign. And after that, he became the targeted bad boy. And Obama was so grateful to have gone from being a half-time lawyer at a public defender's thing,
and he was
in
disbarred.
Chicago. He had no real future, barely could pay for his house. If it hadn't have been for the Brothers of Islam who owned the house and gave him a reduced rent, he couldn't have lived where he lived. Is suddenly a senator, and now he's president of the United States. He's not going to get into this argument one way or another. He's just happy that he gets to be the number one boy for a little while. But Hillary's ticked, and Hillary's going to get even, and the whole Russian thing, it's all coming apart now. The evidence is there. So it doesn't matter whose side you're on. The evidence is the facts.
They're wrong.
It's there. It's
They're
evidentiary.
Wrong. They're not
and
woke.
The evidence says that they made it up. But the lawyers working in Hillary's campaign, probably with Hillary's input, made up the whole thing as a way to try to wound Donald Trump and give Hillary the upper hand in the election, and it didn't work. It blew up in her face. But what really blew up in her face wasn't Donald Trump. What really blew up in her face across America at the time was the fact that she disappointed virtually every woman in America. Because Loretta Lynn and Dolly Parton and, you know, the list goes on, were all singing songs about my man don't cheat on me. And her man did. He got caught. It was out in the public light. Everybody knew about it. And instead of kicking him to the curb like a proud and righteous woman would have done, she just carried on and said, it's no big deal. And that pissed off a lot of women, and that's why she didn't get their vote, and that's why she didn't get to be president of the United States. Or the election was fixed. Doesn't matter. Still comes out. I've been professing that the elections have been fixed since Ronald Reagan got in the White House. That there were other people, Walter Mondale, there were other people that were better suited for the position. And
well, he had Geraldine Ferraro, and she
more
drank.
Supported by the general population than what Richard Milhouse Nixon was. But remember, Nixon was there before Kennedy. Nixon was the vice president under Eisenhower.
Mm-hmm.
So he was waiting. Kennedy, then Johnson, then, see, there's mathematics, and I go back to this again. Somebody prove me wrong. Please, come on here and prove me wrong.
Come on, woke people, join us.
There are no political parties. There is the group that run the game, and there's the rest of us. And in order to keep us from recognizing that a very few are trying to control a very many, and that that's an impossibility without cooperation, they create these two sides of the argument. Okay? It's kabuki theater. The Japanese have a whole thing about it. They play their parts out on a stage in front of a community audience in villages in order to pull out the political activities of the day, and they call it kabuki theater. And that's what they're playing, kabuki theater. See, these are the adversaries, these are the defenders. Then it changes. Strangely, when I was a little kid, I recall that it was the Republicans that were about church, state, you know, the righteous indignation, World War II leftover. And that it was the Democrats that were non-religious. They wanted to debunk it. It was going to be about science. Then we got around the time of the mid-60s, early 70s, and there was a change. It was like suddenly the Republicans were now being liberal. The Republicans were talking about this and that and the other thing, wanting to cut the money, wanting to starve the people. And the Democrats became, you know, it was all about the church and the socialist community and all of that. And then somewhere around the mid-90s, somehow, that all switched back again. And now the Democrats are the liberals and the Republicans are the harsh taskmasters. But I clearly remember when it was the Democrats being the harsh taskmasters. I remember they were the ones that was cracking the whip on social management. Not the Republicans, it was the Democrats. But they switched gears somewhere. And where one side was all about all the liberal churches, you know, the Catholic Church, everything, they were all part of the Democratic thing. And then all of a sudden they weren't. And then it became the Republicans that were supporting the church and that philosophy, moral values. And it was the Democrats that wanted to throw it all out the window with the bathwater. But that's just, maybe it's my illusion, but you know, I've been around for a few years. I've watched them go through some cycles here. But it just seems to me I've seen complete flip-overs. You know, and in places that, you know, once upon a time were thriving are now falling into slums because of the choices of the population that live in those slums. Okay, and I don't have to mention them. They're on the nightly news on a regular basis because of the rioting and burning down buildings, et cetera, et cetera.
And don't forget the gunfighting and all that. But that's not us. That's not us liberals. That's not us liberals. Those radicals.
These were proud, thriving communities. Proud, thriving communities.
Well, I gotta.
Not so long ago, and now they are in complete chaos.
I gotta give a shout out.
I wouldn't go there. I sure as hell wouldn't move there.
I got to give a shout out to my girl Shauna, the conspiracy kitty, and she's doing her thing right now with her games. So I got to give my girl a shout out because she played games and
shout and get it over with.
All right, just give her a shout out. Shout out.
There you
What up, girl? What up, girl?
Are we about out of time?
Yeah, and you know what's really funny? You're such a conservative. I pray for you. I pray for you.
I find that very weird too, because I sort of the code of the West cowboy thing, right? That was always the premise. And I was a hippie. I was a biker groupie. Okay, I wasn't really a biker, but I was a groupie, a hang-on, right? Klingon. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I spent time in Haight-Ashbury. I was with the hippies. I got into psychedelics in their day. I was part of the music industry, both country and rock and roll. I, involved in radio and television, etc. And I never thought of myself as a conservative. I never did. I always thought myself as being against the system. Growing up, it was
radical
against the system. Yeah. Okay. And now here I am, and I don't feel like I've changed at all. But now, the same opinion I had 20 years ago now is conservative. 20 years ago, it was liberal. 20 years ago, I was an anarchist. Now, I'm a conservative, and I haven't changed. I can show you videotape 20 years ago, radio programs from, way back, if they still play on a cassette player. Tape doesn't disintegrate, but going way back when I was very much liberal. I was very much live and let live. I worked for 10 years raising funds for Muscular Dystrophy Association. I cared more about those kids than I did about the neighborhood I lived in. Okay, because I thought it was so wrong that they should be burdened with all these problems. All right, and now here I am, and in a sense, I am the conservative. I hope that somewhere in all this, I'm in the middle of the road.
No, you're a conservative.
I'm not a conservative, and I'm not a liberal.
I told you, I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray for you. Where's my Bible?
This is what I see, and what you're saying you want to do is not going to be good for the future of my grandchildren. And what you say you want to do,
we're going to make them woke.
That ain't going to be good for the future of my grandchildren either.
Y'all scared to see these hairy-legged women.
That's good for the future of my grandchildren. That's really what I care about. What is life going to be like for my grandchildren? Are they going to have a chance? Are they going to have a choice? Okay? Are they going to be told where to go and what to do and how to be? Now, maybe they'll be content with that if they've been brainwashed hard enough. Maybe. But I doubt that seriously. And I want them to be able to create and invent and pursue the things in their minds, their images, their ideas. I remember an 8-year-old boy sitting at a coffee table in a Denny's trying to figure out the schematics of how it would work to make a holodeck that he had seen on Star Trek: The Next Generation. And he thought it was such a cool idea, he wanted to try and see if he could figure out how to make it real. Now, he was 8 years old. He obviously did not have the mechanics or the skills to make this happen, but his brain was trying to figure it out. I want my grandchildren to not only have that ability, I want my grandchildren to be able to pursue it. I want to make all the technology that we've invented be of value, not oppression.
God bless America.
Right now, what I see is the technology that my generation created for your generation to employ, and that generation to enjoy, is being used as a tool, as a club, a stick, an oppressor on the people. And that's wrong. It's just wrong. What YouTube is doing, I get it's a business thing, but I got to ask you, and we'll leave it at this. I seldom acknowledge the fact that, or I try not to acknowledge the fact that you and I are two very different. We grew up in very different times from each other, and, okay, you have the whatever implication comes with a darker complexion than I have. And I know that that implies a lot, and I don't even begin to understand all of it. But let me ask you a question. Suddenly, on broadcast television, in the newspapers, in the magazines, on the billboards, all of the people who used to represent the products changed almost overnight. Okay? Suddenly now, it started out, it was kind of easy. There was a Caucasian, and there was a black, and there was an Asian, and it was male and female. And it was sort of integrated. Then it kind of moved down the road. The Asian lady walks up to the older, mature Caucasian woman, talks to her about her walk-in bathtub with the spa jets. Okay, and she says, "Oh, I gotta go. My grandchildren are coming over to spa." And she turns around, okay, and a very Jamaican Mr. Clean is standing there working in the yard, and she says, "Oh, honey, you've made so much progress." And they walk into the house. 2 weeks later, virtually the same commercial, everybody's black. Every clothing commercial, every food commercial, every commercial being followed by, "Do you need a loan? Get it quick," with a black or Hispanic spokesperson. Saturated, virtually wiping out any Caucasian representation whatsoever. No, I don't care. I'm not offended. But does that actually make you buy their product? The fact that everybody on the screen, it's a black family in an upscale neighborhood in a really nice 4-bedroom house that looks like the Brady Bunch just moved out of. Like we're buying that there's a whole lot of black families that are living at that level. But maybe, okay, that fights the argument of oppression. But this is what they're showing you constantly, everything. See, all black people use this, and black people use that, and black people use this. Does that really affect you as a consumer to buy the product? Whether the spokesman is one color, or wearing one football jersey or another, or is male or female? Does it really impact you directly as a human being when you go to the store? Well, I'm buying that one because they got themselves a black man telling me it's a good product. I'm not buying that other product on the shelf. Does it affect you as a black male in modern day America, 50-year-old man? Does it affect you?
Well, let me explain it to you.
Mm-hmm.
In this culture, this society, nothing affects me because I pray for them.
You pompous, arrogant ass.
I pray for them. I remember that day.
You're a pompous, arrogant
I remember
ass.
that day.
No, but I mean, really.
I'm a human.
I don't get to mix a lot socially, so I'm seriously curious about this.
Okay.
Does it really affect your buying consensus? So what you decide to buy or not buy, does that affect it to you? Does it affect it to you that the story is better told? Now, they're coming out with Wonder Years.
Oh, yeah, the new one.
Was a great story, okay?
Back
about
then.
middle-class kids in the middle-class neighborhood and all the crap that goes down around it. Now they're coming out with it again.
The reboot.
Only now they're upscale urban black kids. And this one is a great exaggeration, in an upscale urban black school. I've yet to see one of those anywhere in this country, but maybe someplace one exists. In the form of maybe a charter school, but where it's predominantly all black or Mexican kids. There's not very few white kids in the school, and the star of the show is now an African descendant, and the girl that he falls into, she's also black, and does that really
Isn't it just
make a
wonderful?
difference to the level of the story? Did you not watch Wonder Years when it was a white kid?
Yes, I love Wonder Years, but now it's even a better story. I might have to sponsor it. I'm gonna have to call the peoples. I'm gonna
it
call
just
Al
went-
Sharpton.
It just went from the discount bin to the New York Times bestseller because we put a black kid in the role of the star.
That's right. They've been holding them down. You know something? We're gonna put the rainbow flag in the background. We're gonna
See, and that's my point.
We're gonna
There's your
take a knee.
propaganda. See, there is this constant drive to get us to go where they want us to go, and we're not supposed to think about it. You know, we're supposed to go to work and do our job. We're supposed to worry about navigating traffic. We're supposed to find a place to park. We're supposed to get on a job. We're supposed to do so many parts per minute. We're supposed to collect our paychecks. We're supposed to navigate the traffic back home. We're supposed to stop and consume a bunch of shit along the way that we really don't need, probably can't afford. Then we're supposed to go home. We're supposed to sit down with our nice non-nuclear family and try to act like it's, you know, something out of Leave It to Beaver in the 1950s, and then go to bed. And we're never supposed to think about any of this stuff. We're just supposed to let them handle it for us.
I got
Our only concern is navigating traffic and getting to that job where we do so many parts per million. Okay, that's all they care about.
Okay.
And then you go home and stay at home and mind your own P's and Q's.
You
And
know, I feel
watch
offended.
TV, but pay us a fee to watch TV.
I feel offended. I feel offended. I am a liberal. I have the LGBTQ WSYZ RSVP flag. And you won't even let me speak. And you won't let me speak. You're being sexist. You're being sexist. I will pray for you. I will pray for you.
I want to see
I'm
your
a call
club
Maxine.
membership ID card.
I'm a call Maxine.
You don't even have the magic decoder ring.
I'm going to
not buying it.
I'm going to help you. I'm going to show you the right way. I'm going to wake you up. This is what I need you to do.
You know what, Daryl? I don't think they're wrong.
No, they're not.
I don't think they're wrong.
No.
I do think that we need to make a change. And I don't think the people that are really the blood and guts, you know, the down on the street people, not the leadership, okay? Not that unsavory woman who started the BLM and now owns 6 mansions across the country, okay? She's a scam artist, all right? But that doesn't mean that what the people are saying or what the people are asking for is wrong. I don't back the agitators, but I do back the attitude. I believe they're not wrong any more than I believed that I was wrong back in the 60s when we were talking about stopping the war and equal rights for women, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay.
That's the beauty of
when
it.
When the white boys and the Black Panthers were marching arm in arm down Los Senecas Boulevard, okay, protesting the power that was, okay, at the time, Ronnie Reagan, who was the governor, okay, you know, hey man, we weren't against each other. Okay, we had one thing in common. We were all going to end up in Vietnam and get our ass blown off. And we wanted this stopped, this forcing us to do this. Okay, it wasn't about whether you wanted to fight the war or believed in the politics. It was about, now wait a minute, man, I got a life to live and you're telling me that I got to stop doing everything I do and I got to go over there and die so that Shell Oil can have more cans of oil to sell.
But you got to understand. Listen, you got to understand. That's them. That's them doing business. That's their problem. That's their responsibility.
Do you know how many guys showed up? Do you know how many guys showed up at the induction centers? What we call the AFI station, where you went, and that's where they got the physical, and then you swore in, and you went to the Army, right? Or the Navy, wherever you went.
Yeah.
Okay. So when they went into the induction center in the 1970s, there were more guys showing up wearing their little sister's panties, their mother's bra. Okay.
Just to get out of the military.
These guys were the least gay people you ever met in your life. Okay. But anything to get out of the military.
Okay. Because you're scared. You're scared.
And go, look, yes.
I know some.
What's his name?
I know some guys in high heel shoes and a boots.
Arlo Guthrie. Arlo Guthrie in the song in Alice's Restaurant, and he does a stanza, I believe that's what it's called, a stanza in the paragraph in the song, where he's talking about being in the induction center, and he jumps up on the psychologist's desk, and he says, I want to kill, I want to kill, I want to see burning babies, and I want to kill, kill, kill. And the guy said, you're too crazy for the Army. Go sit in Group W bench. Okay? This is now, this is what guys did to get out of getting drafted and sent to Vietnam.
Well, I know people wearing high heel shoes that can do it even better
through here
on a battlefield.
Is all that different, nor is the argument in play. I don't want to go to, this isn't about getting sent to war in Afghanistan or the draft. This is about my future if I'm 20-something. This is about my future and my right to make decisions where I want to go and who I want to be, not what makes the machine run. You want me to fall in and be a nice little cog in your machine, and I'm just supposed to accept that.
Yes.
While I watch you live like a celebrity, and I live in poverty. I don't think this is fair. I watched my,
now that'd be socialism, sir.
I watched my single parent struggle and suffer trying to raise me and send my brothers and sisters to school, and damn it, it has to change. This isn't right. Hey, I agree with him. I agree with you 100%.
Thank you.
It's not right. I am still half hippie pig, okay? It's the reality of things.
Thank
all right?
you.
But I also know what happens when a crowd, all hyped up,
yes,
without good common sense, tries to crash in to a Democratic convention in Chicago, and the rubber bullets and the bombs and the tear gas and the war clubs come out, and there's a whole bunch of bloody college students. I know what it's like, when a crowd of people are confronted on a grassy knoll at a very liberal college in central Ohio, okay? And 4 kids are left dead on the street, shot down by the great guardians of our government. Unarmed kids, shot down in the street.
They should have been woke.
Okay? There was another one down in Georgia or Alabama, and I don't remember the name of that college, but they shot kids down there too. Okay? Hey, you don't think, this woke generation thinks they got something new on the table?
Nothing new.
You ain't seen nothing yet. Okay, you ain't seen what happens when it gets ugly. You didn't get met at the end of the street in Portland on Main as you were setting fire to the buildings. There were not tanks and machine guns that opened fire on you in mass while you were trapped at the end of the street. Okay, you didn't even begin to see what this can be. You have no idea.
Because they will never ever do it, because number one, most of the people are woke today, and your legislatures in the areas, they know better than to hurt me, because I am a U.S. citizen and I represent this country, and I will put my rainbow flag, my high heel 6.5 inch spikes and my garter on, and I will go teach class tomorrow afternoon at the public school, and I will wear my wig, and I will let you know that when I go back in the military, sir, I will go back dressed fully, and you're going to pay for my weenie to get cut off, you're going to get paid for my boobies to get bigger, and you're going to pay for my voice to get softer. Because I am America.
We'll see how long that holds together. And the enemy's coming over the hill, and they're raining down on your foxhole, and you're running for your life. I bet you'll leave them spiked heels and all that fancy crap.
No. I hit them with them. I hit them. I hit them hard.
You haven't. Yeah, right. Yeah.
You didn't think I did. You didn't think I got this body for nothing.
I don't know. At my recollection, now this is going back probably 40 years. My recollection was there was a certain segment of that group that were very into the bodybuilding thing.
Yeah, big brother.
They you know, although they were, they had to prove they were badass. That way, nobody was going to give them any shit about being a little bit on the, you know, a little bit on the soft side. Okay, but the vast majority of them, okay, were either obese or emaciatedly skinny. You didn't get a lot of common.
They were vegetarians.
Kind of guys that were, you know, that were into this. Now the women have always confused me because, you know, nowadays it's a little bit easier to walk into a place, you know, a crowd of people, and see a woman and go, I'll bet she's slanted, a bent spoke. But she's wearing a crew cut with wax on it, trying to dress like a mechanic, you know, and looking real badass, trying no makeup, no nothing. She's really trying to look not feminine. I might pick up on the fact that she's probably not feminine by nature, but most of them you can't tell. And then the worst of it is they're all dressed up and they're all being pretty, which is to try, you know, you wrap fancy paper around a Christmas present to make the Christmas present more appealing than the content. So you done made the present all appealing, and I come over there and ask if I can open the present. You get all offended because you're a lesbian and I'm a man, and didn't I know better, and what the hell's wrong with me, and she's being sexually harassed, and then why did you wrap yourself up in a Christmas paper? If you didn't want the attention, why did you present yourself? Just so you could get conflict?
No, it's just because.
So you could get conflict.
It's just because.
Why did you wear that outfit out here into a nightclub full of men if you didn't expect that some man was going to walk up to you and say, wow, man, can I unwrap the package?
It's because she was going to look for her girl. Yeah. Woke,
if that's
baby.
What you're worried
Woke.
about, then get up early, get all dressed up, put on your makeup, then crawl back in bed and wait for the alarm to go off. And that way, first thing in the morning, you can be all pretty for your girl.
And why can't she
partner.
socialize? Why can't she socialize?
You know?
Socialize. I like that word.
I used to rag on my. Now we were married for 42 years. Well, we were together for 42 years. I used to get on her all the time because it wasn't like in the early days we couldn't afford it. Now it was understandable. But by the time the kid was born, we were doing all right. And I used to get on her. I used to go, you know, to go out and buy some girly clothes. You know, buy something nice to go out, you know, so that you can feel comfortable amongst the other, you know. I was going to a lot of Chamber of Commerce meetings and that kind of stuff because of media connections. And so it was like, I always feel underdressed because she'd be in a pair of blue jeans and a vest, you know, or something like that. She's very pretty, very attractive, very alluring, but she always dressed like a tomboy. And, you know, and I used to get on her about it, and she'd like, I don't need that, you know. And besides which, you know, I have a man, I'm not looking for another one. So why would I put out invitation? And if I get all gussed up like these other women, then I feel like all I'm doing is putting myself on display for other men to come approach, and I don't need other men to approach.
Well, I'll put it this way. She might want a little, you know, stiff action, but she may be, you know,
So
maybe she could have had some stiff action, some wet action.
She was down dressing out of respect to me. Now that she had a husband, she no longer needed to put on the fancy feathers. She wasn't attracting a man, she had a man.
What's your man got to do with me?
Therefore, she dressed conservatively, you know. Now, I never understood that. I always thought she'd want to, you know, why don't you fluff yourself up? I mean, this is in the days when all the superstars, Charlie's Angels and all that were coming out, you know, Farrah Fawcett Majors and all that. And I'm like, you know, you're as pretty as they are, you know, if you dressed up like that, you'd be a knockout too. And she's like, I don't want to be a knockout.
Do you remember that story, the trial of Billy Jack, the girl with the short haircut, always wears suspenders?
Yes.
Okay. Wasn't she pretty?
Which trial of Billy Jack? I've seen all three and probably more times than I can remember.
Yeah, you know, the girl in there was she's really cute. The one with the short haircut.
Nothing you can do about it.
The little blondie with the short haircut.
She ran to school.
Yeah.
She ran the
School,
right.
yeah.
Was essentially his girlfriend.
Right. Now,
Right.
so, I mean, she could look kind of tomboyish.
Yeah.
And still be sexy, but it's like people don't know men don't know whether they want to approach her or not. It's okay. It's a problem. It's you got to have respect. Respect.
Well,
listen to my words, sir. Listen to my words. Respect that woman's body.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
Don't you know what it means to me? Yeah, yeah. Shooby-doo-wop-dee-bop. Okay, but she was sexy, and I'll never forget. You remember that movie, Angel
Heart? I did
Heart?
a couple of shows with Mary Wilson.
Oh, you did? Hold on.
Yeah.
That made Odin come out when he said Mary Wilson.
Our paths never crossed, but years later I did do some those 20-year remembrance kind of tours.
Yeah.
And she was on board for those, along with a couple of other people. Martha Reeves, that bunch, Little Anthony and the Imperials, But this was in like the 90s, man. So I mean they were a long time from their heyday. But they were cool people. I much spending time with them and chatting in the green room and that kind of thing. Had dinner with a bunch and but I had a lot of that. Now it's fun. But see, we all came from a different era. We all were impressed with a different train of thought, and we thought we had won. And by the way, for the rest of you out there in the world, we thought we won for you too. I didn't want to go to war, neither did anybody else I knew. We were winning for the whole, for the group. And in some ways I think we did, and in other ways I think we fell short. But I think what we need to do now, and it still comes back to the same thing. Remember, the people that are running their mouth are running their mouth for a reason. They're trying to convince you to do something for their way of going, for their agenda. They're not in it unless they're going to benefit from it. So think about what you're hearing. Before you jump to conclusions, before you listen to that celebrity tell you something, good, bad, or indifferent. And I'm not saying that they're wrong. Everybody needs something to believe in. That's the whole point of being here, is to try to figure out who you are and what you're all about. And when you have achieved that at the end of your life, okay, you will move on to whatever comes next. But beyond that, there's little else that's required of you except to walk your path and live your life. Find your food, try to avoid conflict, find a place to shelter where you're comfortable, and maybe you have companions, maybe you don't, okay? But you're just trying to get along, one breath at a time, one after the other, because you never know when the last breath is going to be taken. And the rest of this is all somebody's agenda trying to win your support. And at the end of the day, the question you always have to ask, and it sounds snarky, I know it, but brother, what's in it for me? Nothing more, nothing less. What's in it for me? Yes, I want to help my neighbor. I had this conversation, is my neighbor my friend or my enemy? Depending on the circumstances, if it's everybody for himself and there's only one piece of meat out there and everybody's hungry, trust me, my neighbor is now my adversary because we're both going for that piece of meat. Whoever gets it first is going to get it, keep it. If
Scratch his ass out. Scratch his ass out.
On the other hand, if the tree falls in my house and I need somebody to help me get that tree out of my house because it's too big to lift on my own, then my neighbor is my friend, I hope. I hope that my neighbor would come to me, and I know that I would go to my neighbor and help my neighbor if my neighbor was in distress. But I can never forget that my neighbor could become an adversary very quickly. You think I'm kidding? Were you in the Walmart store when the toilet paper was running out? Okay? They were grabbing like mad. Trust me, man. You didn't want to argue with a man with a shopping cart full of toilet paper. He was ready to fight to keep it.
The animalistic mentality
That's
of the
your
human
neighbor.
species in America.
Yeah, okay. Survival. I will survive.
They
Okay?
can't work together.
In
They're
most
not woke.
cases, at all cost. There is a small segment of our human population which will just curl up in a ball and take whatever comes at them. Okay? You know, and they're natural born victims. It's their own choice, it's their demeanor, it's just who they are. But the vast majority of us will fight for our survival. We won't surrender. Not quietly. It doesn't mean you're going to win. It just means you're not going to stand still and take it and stay or do nothing in return. But you have that. It's called free choice. You get to decide who you follow. You get to decide what path you walk on. You get to decide what you buy. And if you're really, really, really upset, and if you really, really, really want to bring this thing down one way or another, where the people gain control, then stop supporting the power brokers. You go to work, you do their bidding, you build their products so they can sell them on the street to other poor suckers who can't say no. What happens if you quit going to work and building their stuff? Very quickly, they're going to have a problem. Very quickly, they haven't got anything to sell. They haven't got any more money coming in. They can't buy any more privilege. Remember, the benefit of being rich is that you got so much money that you can buy endless privilege with that money. But, like Afghanistan, and a point nobody has brought up, I think is very interesting, okay? The Afghanistan army was raised from shepherds, herdsmen, and just general guys around town, okay? Didn't have any, maybe they, made shoes or something, okay? They became the soldiers in the army, in the Afghan army, because the pay was good and the lifestyle was okay. You still had to fight the Taliban, but you were fighting the Taliban if they came to your town anyways. It doesn't really matter. So group participation was beneficial to the mass, right? If we show up in large numbers, then the Taliban won't be so quick to come slap us around. And they were being paid by the U.S. government. When the U.S. government stopped paying them, told them, as of this date, that's it, we're not paying you anymore. They said, guess what? We're not being the Afghan army anymore. You were paying me, I was happy to be the Afghan army. You're not paying me? I don't care about that guy in the Capitol. It don't mean nothing to me. He's a self-declared prince. I don't care. It's not my brother-in-law. So if you're not paying me, I'm not going to stand around here and fight these guys for you. I'm out of here. Here's my guns. I don't need them anymore. Thanks. I'll go back to herding my goats. And that's what they did. And we don't kind of recognize that. We don't talk about it, but that's the truth of it. There was nothing in it for them anymore, except torture and punishment. So guess what? I quit. I'm out here. I don't fault them for it. We should have known that about them in the forefront. And we did, technically. We knew that was the nature of the people in that part of the world. They've been hiring themselves out as mountain guides and whatever else they could do, and rug merchants for centuries, millennia. Okay? They've been those herders that lived in those mountains. And they've always been subject to be bought by who's ever brightened the paycheck. They're loyal to whoever's feeding them. When you stop feeding them, they're not loyal to you anymore. They'll be loyal to the next guy who offers to feed them. In the meantime, they're in it for themselves. There's nothing wrong with that. It didn't serve our interests, and it's not to the best, not to the good of America, but you can't fall down. I raised this argument way, way, way back, with what was his name? Something Kamali. He was the high priesty yuckity yuck in Iran. And, they said, this guy's terrible. The Shah was out of power, and this Khomeini. And this guy is, this guy's rising to power, and he's getting the people all angry and da-da-da-da-da, and it's a revolution, and we got to stop the Ayatollah Khomeini. And I looked at people and I said, you know, if you looked at it from their point of view, the Ayatollah Khomeini is no different than George Washington was to us. He was willing to raise the argument, and he was willing to stand the ground and lead the fight. And he was looking at the freedom of his people against a tyrannical government that was a king, okay, the Shah of Iran, who was essentially the king, okay? So they wanted to overthrow the king for their own freedom to make their own choices for their own future. Not unlike under any of those guys. But we demonized the Ayatollah Khomeini because he was interjecting in our interest. He was disturbing the cash flow, as it were. So he was evil. But if you were an Iranian and you looked at him, you'd be going, that's our George Washington. That's our savior, our salvation, our leader. He's a great and wonderful man, compassionate, caring about the people, willing to put his life on the line on our behalf. So you see, once again, truth is subjective. Their truth, your truth, my truth. I'm just a guy floating in the wind. I got nowhere to go. I got nothing to do. I got nobody dependent on me. I eat a couple of times a day. I sleep tired. And I talk on this program too much. Twice a week now, right? Right here on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network, or GERN. Find us on YouTube too, and on Facebook, I think. But at any rate, that's pretty much the end of it. My advice: beware false prophets. Know who they are and what they stand for before you agree to follow them, before you agree to send them money. So much about please send me your money. You know, there are people who are just trying to stay alive like you and me, except instead of having a real 9-to-5 job where they get blisters and sweat, they want to sit around in Hawaii and sip on Mai Tais while you buy their books and support their lifestyle.
And buy my book.
Know them for who they are. Know them for who they are, and follow your own advice. Hey, Daryl, it's been fun.
And can I go back to being Odin? Because I'm feeling kind of funny.
Okay.
I'm starting to kind of...
Odin.
Oh.
You are what you were, what you were, you are. Be that you will that be that you are.
Man, I feel kind of... Hold on. I feel kind of funny.
Take off the bra, you moron.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Can you do that? Have you ever tried that?
What?
My wife used to have this trick where she could be wearing a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And a t-shirt underneath it and a bra. And she could reach up inside her shirt and she could come out.
How do the women do that? How do they do that?
I know. I'm like, how do you...
That's a magic trick,
man.
man.
I pull my t-shirt off while I'm still wearing my coat. Not without ripping it to shreds, you know. But she used to just amaze me, and she'd pull it out her arm sleeve, you know. It's like, yeah.
I'm like,
not that
how
I
do
didn't
you do that?
appreciate the gesture or the idea that now they were free ranging under there, which was interesting. But it was just amazed me. It was like some magic trick where she pulled it out her sleeve.
It's like, what came out of that hat? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, never figured out how she did that. Never mastered that trick, but it was a good trick.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some people.
That's it. Hey, you tell, you pass the word on. You said you could take message, so you tell Paul. I really want to have a in-depth conversation, but I don't want his science. I want him to condone my English.
Oh shoot! Okay.
You know what I mean? I want to have that conversation where we take all this down to layman's terms, so everybody can understand it.
Deal.
We don't need to get
I'll
into the
set that.
cells
Look,
and the genes
I'll
and
set that up. By the wrath of me, I will.
But we are very much on the same page in a lot of ways.
Yes, you are.
You know, and the one thing that we both have against JD, in contrast to JD, is we don't yell at people, we don't accuse people of being stupid, we don't demean people.
Okay? Hey, I do that.
And I don't know, I try not to brag, It's like, oh, well, hey, I've been around the world 15 times and I've written 20 books and hey, look, man, that's not relevant. That's what I did. What am I going to do?
But hold on. I do
believe
that all the time.
This is all about what we're going to do, not what we've done. You either have something to offer the people that makes sense and a plan for something to do in the future that'll benefit us all.
Well, all I can say is this man has just started the battle with Fade to Black, and it is a done deal. Good night, everybody. It is now 8 o'clock almost. Yeah, there you are, right there. Got your hat? Here we
Happy
go.
Trails.
Wow.
Well, it's another story.
Yeah.
Well, it's another story. Well, it's another story.
Cowboy Bob.
Another story. Well, it's another story.
Cowboy Bob goes against Fade to Black. Good night, everybody.